see the numbers. If you ran the stuff out of MLS, you can go, that one is in trouble. Within a few months, that office closes. And they were so easy to pinpoint based on you can't run an office on those numbers. So what's your standard in here, in the room here? Do you have a standard? We have a goal of selling 10 out of 10, isn't that right? But realistically, that's not what's happening. So today, part of the conversation today about lead conversion is, what's your standard? I take every listing that I go after, I don't care. I'd rather have the person who closes 14 out of 14 than the one who goes 14 for 27. They're damaging the brand. You're at the company. A lender asked me a question a few months back about a bunch of different realtors that this lender was going to call upon. And I'm like, when I gave him the names, he gave me the names and I pulled the data. I said, are you kidding me? I said, she listed 11, sold 1. Do you still want to network with her any longer? And the earnest was for your office. Was it for you? And I'm assuming that you're not networking with her. You know what? If you really wanted, if the person was coachable, I would say that might be a person, if they're doing enough volume to say, maybe that's one of mine, because she has so much opportunity for growth. But right now, you're going to see most agents are selling 4 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10. And when agents tell me, and I've had agents say, no, I don't, that's not what I do. And an agent said to me, I sold everything. I had his numbers already in front of me. He went 8 for 16. And I said, let me ask you something, because he's in your office. Oh, wow. He's in your office. Okay. And I asked him something. I had the data in front of me, and I said, well, what about these? Well, they weren't motivated. Well, they just wouldn't drop their price. They this. I'm like, well, who signed the listing agreement? Who signed the employment agreement? Did the seller put a gun to your head? What happened here? He went 8 for 16. Another agent in a particular office said he was selling he went 0 for 8. It's right in the MLS. By the way, when you're doing contract negotiations with a real estate agent, I highly recommend you pull their CMA report. See how many transactions they do, what's their average price point, what's their list price to sale price ratio. You can learn a lot. That's the DNA of the realtor you're negotiating with. That was pretty, standard practice in our company. When we're doing contract negotiations, know thy adversary, right? Know about them. Because imagine you pull the data on a realtor during contract negotiations, and they had 8 listings and went 0 for 8. Does that tell you something about their communication skills? Absolutely. And what we know is that their judgment, the quality of their client might not be right, and the quality of the buyer they have with you when they're submitting an offer, this agent probably has no control over their client because they have no control over their sellers. You want, again, in contract negotiations, whenever an agent brought me something, I'd always ask the question, what can you tell me about the other realtor? I don't want to know about the buyer. I don't want to know about the offer. I want to know about the other realtor. How many transactions they do, how many transactions they fall through. What's their list price to sale price ratio? If it's widespread, it tells me something's wrong with communication. And what would it be if somebody has a 13% list price to sale price ratio in a marketplace where it's about 6 or 7? There's something wrong in communication. Or they take a bunch of listings and they fail a lot of time. There's something wrong, with an agent's ability to communicate with their client. It just shows up on the CMA report. It's just that easy to learn something in negotiations about the other party. Or you can skip it and wing it. So many transactions as we hit stage 3, because stage 1 is getting the commitment. Stage 2 is, just 1 second, Jim. Stage 1 is getting the commitment. Stage 2 is the communication week over week. Stage 3 is contract negotiations. And lead conversion isn't done until we've got them through stage 3. Now we still have the building inspection and things like that to go through, but the real hairy things, the real consequential conversations are happening in stage 1, 2, and 3. That's where the communication is the breakdown. Jim.
Last summer I did I
Can you stand up?
what the other agent had done The results were not good. There was an edging, but the listing was a tough sell listing. The seller wanted to, they liked the contract, they liked the offer.
Yeah.
They took the offer, and the deal did fall apart. What do you do with it? At the risk of sounding like I'm going out on a dummy, I had a situation where it wasn't good. The results were not good.
Right.
And a tough sell listing. What do you do with that?
A tough sell listing?
Yeah, it was a tough sell listing.
Yeah, we're going to get to that when we talk about the communication. We take the listing, we don't know it's tough sell, could be a challenge, but once we have it, we know it.
Right.
You've had it for 18 days and you've had 0 showings. So I'll get to that, Jim, for sure. And my neighbor became a realtor. Her first listing was in our subdivision. And I went to the open house on Sunday because I wanted to, see what agents are saying. And it was her first listing ever. It was so cute. She said, "I hate this business." She had a listing for 40 days, had not had a showing in the property. Hence the open house to appease the seller that had relocated to Texas. And that thing was so far overpriced. They bought it in like '06. They were asking like 70 grand more and they paid for it. And it's like, do I tell her? Do I tell her that this thing is overpriced by 100 miles? Not a little. Thing is, this home seller had promised his wife, we're moving to Texas. He promised his wife, we'll buy you another home down there. It was part of the worst part of the economy, but he gave her the assurance, we're going to get another home. Because they anticipated they were going to have at least 70 grand or whatever in revenue. Nothing of it was there. The house sold for less than they paid for it. It's almost guaranteed if you bought in 2006 and didn't steal it and didn't pump it full of money, they're going to sell it for less than they paid for it in this metro area. And the whole time, this new agent with a national brand gave a marketing plan. This is how we're going to get your money. But no marketing plan can sell an overpriced property, especially when it's overpriced by 100 miles. They weren't even in the ballpark. So, Jim, what we'll address here is once she took that listing, how do you get equipped to move that seller down to below what they paid for it, right? And I think that's kind of what you're asking, not just... Right. Well, let me throw that out real quick here then. When we got the other agent involved, as the forward thinker, I want us to all realize we are responsible for that whole deal. We're the listing agent, we're responsible for the buy side, as far as leading them, because there's a lot of agents doing 2 and 3 deals a year that have the buyer for your transaction, who do not have a clue. Why would they? It's no offense that they're a newbie and they're so green. I remember one of my first offers back in the 80s. I asked for the earnest money in cash, and it was about a $10,000 earnest money check. And they taught me, they were really nice about it. I was at Gundaker in the DePere office. I still remember sitting with Susan and, I got divorced, I can't remember their name, Susan and her husband, and I was filling out the sale contract, and I literally asked, I said, this is a cash deposit, goes into an escrow account, and it's $10,000. The house was only like 150 or something like that, and they said, we think that's a little bit high. They were so nice to me, but I was one of those green agents, and I remember Joe Morton. If you remember Joe Morton, he was a sales manager there. I wrote an offer on a property, and he used it as an example of what not to do at the sales meeting. And the problem was Joe didn't tell me he was going to do that. He had all these red marks with like a flare pen that you could all see, and he held it up. And I'm in the audience. I'm thinking, at the Tuesday sales meeting, I'm like, Joe, you could have told me you were going to do this. But I was one of those green agents. And so as we really got to that forward-thinking level, we started saying we are responsible for the other agent too. Fiduciary, they represent the other company and the buyer, the other client. But you know what? It's our responsibility they don't do it wrong. Because do some people have an attitude as well? Agents? Kind of moody? Guy's a diva? Or whatever? Ladies of Diva? Sorry. Sorry. Wait, I don't know. Can you rewind that part of the tape? But are some agents, not anybody in this room, but are some agents problems?
Yes, an
Adversarial.
From the get-go.
From the word get-go, yeah. The contract negotiations, I'll kind of jump to stage 3 here. Contract negotiations, how do I put this? We do all that work with seller servicing, week to week. We did all that analysis before we got the listing. It all comes down to about a 1 hour, maybe a day or two event called contract negotiations. And it falls apart because the other agent and their client are nuts. They don't understand. There's an agent, she's not here today. She had an offer. She was running on a property, and she had her extended sales force buyer's agent submit the offer. They went in at $520 on a $600,000 listing. And buyer wouldn't come up, seller wouldn't come down, maybe the $590, something like that. Deal died. She got back involved when she heard what occurred, and all she had to do was educate, she had the buyer, she had to actually educate her buyer that the property was worth at least $580. Because the buyer in this economy was saying, that's way too much, 600 grand for that property. The buyer went up to 580 from 520 and the seller came down. I got an email from her, she said, thanks for the $9,000 this weekend. She was in your office. Yeah. Yeah, she said to email me, thanks for the 9 grand. Because basically what she did, she helped the buyer reframe what the value was. Because the buyers, don't they have an opinion on properties? Are those opinions founded? No, they're pretty much unfounded. So she took upon the responsibility to lead all parties in the transaction, right? All right, let's kind of stay on course here. So it goes back to the leadership at the company that you're at. And I'm sorry that, I think, is it Roseanne? Rosine. She said to me at the break that she's the CEO of her own company. And I thought, wow, that's wonderful. Yes. And so if the leadership at the company you're at right now doesn't have a standard for how many listings out of 10 that you close, or how many buyers out of 10 that you sign up for agency, what would your own standards be? Because today is about building a business model. And if you have no standards, you just try to close everybody you get, knowing that that's not happening, is it fair to say today that you're going to come up with a standard? And would it be 5 out of 10? I think if we all got together and had a whiteboard over here, there's no way we would design 5 out of 10. What would we design? Is 10 out of 10 even realistic? I think because we learn about people kind of after we started. And then you go, oh my gosh, these people are so unrealistic. We don't discover it till we get into the relationship. So, and also they're uncoachable. So what do we do with those relationships? Just stick with it for 6 months? No, I've got a program called the R&R. Hopefully you can start doing this today. It's called the Reduce or Release. Go face-to-face with your home seller and do a Reduce or Release program. I have so much confidence that we're overpriced that you can either release me from the listing, and I'm okay with that, because we have no probability of selling at this price. If you do this face-to-face, a Reduce or Release, and you have 2 agreements, listing agreement, addendum to the price, and you have an addendum to release from the listing. And I'd say, Bob, you choose either one. I'm totally okay with this, but I have such confidence that this is the price and we will not sell at that higher price. We don't even get offers. That I'm willing to release it. Because I only want part-time jobs taking up my team's time that pay. Again, what good are listings that don't sell? Well, I might get some more business off the sign. Oh, I don't want to count on business off the sign. That's why I do Salesforce 5. I got quality listings coming in from other people, and I don't want to rely on a sign. Is it fair? Okay. Nobody say unfair? Okay. So, some hands. What do you think is reasonable to sell out of 10? Ryan? What do you think is reasonable? In St. Louis, you sell in St. Louis City. 6.5 out of 10? Is that reasonable for everybody or for you guys?
We just looked at our numbers.
Yeah.
Probably
What-
if you're doing shorts, though, sometimes the lender comes in and it doesn't matter if you get it on a contract.
What did you say before that, though? You looked up your numbers.
Yeah, I said we just looked at our numbers. We're about 55, I think.
Okay.
But I don't know, this is a question I guess I'd ask you. With those numbers that you put up earlier, does that count, like there's a couple listings that may have gone expired that we actually ended up.
Oh, we count those. If you lose a listing and you recovered it, we count those. So that office I just showed you was still at 52%. If they recover the listing within 12 months, we do not count it as a failure. Try to be fair. But even with that said, they lost, it's somewhere between, on the low side, 700,000 in commissions to probably around $1 million. Because we don't do is calculate the buy side in the software program. But anybody else, what's the standard? So 6.5 would be, by the way, if you're going to set that for 2013, they're going to close 6.5 out of every 10. You already know you're going to have a revenue increase by selling what you control. And I would say that's a worthy goal. If you said I'm going to go to 95%, I'm not sure that is realistic. But to go up about 10 points, 13 points, that's hopefully realistic. Jim, in the back, or Gary.
6 or 7 is a great goal. I think 8 or 9 if you go into it ahead of time and don't take those listings.
Amen.
Control that.
That's really good.
Yeah,
You can
control that
control.
by not taking anything that you know you can't sell.
But how dare I walk away from a listing? How dare I?
Well, before you set your standard, I mean, you need to assess whether there's a portion of the business that are short sales, maybe more difficult to.
Right.
To have certain.
We're going to address that real quick here. Pardon?
Getting the more leads, getting all this business, permits you the opportunity to walk away from it.
Right.
You're never gonna convert.
Right.
It's no matter when you walk away. You either walk away up front or you walk away later.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, that's the way I see it.
and hopefully if you're walking away later, you're walking away sooner. But, I've been in a lot of, I was at 7 different companies. A lot of times the leadership would say, don't walk, no release. Wait a minute, I'm putting my time in for free. I didn't say this to the broker, but I'm working for free here. And what the broker wants, not everybody's like this, more signs. Market share. The smartest person in the room always wants more listings. The presidents of companies, leaders, and managers, they always want more listings, want more market share. The buyers will always take care of themselves. As an agent, my best year was about 180 deals, almost split down the middle were buyers and sellers. And I can't stand buyers. Yeah. I couldn't get away from buyers, no matter what I tried. Now, I didn't drive any of those buyers around. I had the team to do that. But no matter what happens, if you're doing 100 deals, when, yeah, I won't tell that. So life's a numbers game, and it shows up that this company's losing about half of what they do, and there's about $1 million in commissions out of one office. And if this company had multiple offices, this goes up into the tens of millions of dollars in commissions that are lost to somebody else. Anybody see your listings up there? I used to have this presentation where you could see the listings up there that people lost, and I thought, there could be people in the room. So we don't show that one. But my reports can show, I've got a report broken down. I can see every single agent's listings they lost in their whole career. I can go back to 1998, and based on your ID, like your social security number, I can see how much business you closed and how much business you lost. If you saw that report on yourself, or some people in the industry, you'd be shocked at how much business they did not control past the listing agreement. They lost it and it got recovered by somebody else. It's all in the MLS, right? So why is there so much variation between real estate agents? You got 2 agents at the same company, right? They're at the same company, same office, same amount of years. Why is one agent selling 65%, another agent selling 32%? What's making the difference? They got the same listing presentation, same years of experience. What's happening differently? Karen?
Well, communication, maybe one understands the staff better, can communicate better. Maybe they are better at follow-up with their seller. There could be a variety of reasons, different personalities.
Go ahead.
I would say systems is very key. The one that has the systems is definitely going to outperform the one that doesn't.
I agree 100% with both of you. Jim Lieber, you had something?
Well, you know, the one thing I got out of the pricing seminar we did a couple of years ago was spending more time on the pricing pre-list so
Right.
you don't have to during the service.
So a follow-up question to that would be, if you have 60 minutes to do an interview, how much of that time should be dedicated toward pricing and how much time dedicated toward marketing? Is it 50-50? 70% marketing, 30% pricing?
No, 70% pricing.
Oh, 30% that high on marketing.
Yeah, I'm not against that.
Tom, who had to leave for a closing, he was here earlier. He ran. I'm not sure he ran it over, but I challenged him: run over your marketing binder. Just run it over. Don't use it. Leave it in the car, because does marketing serve the promise if you overprice it? It only helps persuade the seller to get the listing, doesn't it? It's overpriced. Now, I had this wake-up call back in the early 90s by a home seller, Dr. White. He was actually a cancer doctor at BJC Hospital, and excuse me, and he worked with the Billikens. What he did with the St. Louis Billikens, he helped them on their mindset. He was a sports psychology coach, and he was a psychiatrist at BJC, helping people going through cancer. And the challenges that people had. Now, the Billikens were just free throws, right? Getting the free throw line. They were not making enough out of 10, and they were losing games. It's a free throw. Nobody's even blocking you. I mean, can you get to the line and just shoot a free throw? It should go in. Nobody's blocking you. Where their numbers were so poor, they hired a sports psychology coach. His name was Dr. White. He didn't play basketball at all. He just changed mindsets. Because, you know, they lose these basketball games by 2 or 3 points. What's the problem? It was the free throw line. It was almost always, when you lose a game that closely, it was almost always the free throw line. If we just had made 3 extra free throws. So they hired a sports psychology coach to come in and change the mindset. He never went to the free throw line with these guys at all. It was never at the free throw line. His coaching was done in a classroom, changing people's mindset. And so we have to do that with our homeowners, is change their mindset. And as we keep unpacking this today, you're going to see that's it. It was communications. They're both Karen. Karen and Karen both said it's communications and systems. And the systems is the how we do it, all right, and the data and what have you. And then the communication side is what we say. And the good news is this is everything's in the MLS. Except what they don't have is how you say it. And I've actually asked the MLS in St. Louis, I would love to teach how to use the data that's inside the MLS. If anybody has any influence over them, I love the opportunity to teach classes there for free of how to utilize the reports inside the MLS to help people move a buyer up if need be, a seller down when justified. All right? So, anyways, where was I? I get 3 of those a speech. 3, where was I? So anyway, here's where I was. Yeah, the 2 agents, same brand. There's no uniformity. That's what the challenge is. Communication. Is everybody at the same brand trained the exact same way? No, you're on your own. Isn't that pretty much? How do I get a price reduction? You're kind of on your own. I remember going to my manager years and years ago, and I had overpriced listings. And like, help me. Poor Joe, he gets all the brunt of these conversations. Joe, I said, Joe, I got over, you know, I went 2 for 10 out of my first 10 listings. I was a Gundaker agent, and I said to Anne Franklin, I have no money, but I have potential. Will you be my assistant? Because I knew not to do the paperwork. So I went out and listed 10 houses in 60 days as a newbie, because I had nothing else to do, and I'm a born hunter. So there was no stopping me from taking overpriced listings. I could get listings faster than anybody else could. I got the awards for it, because what gets measured gets done. In the company, they didn't give awards for how many listings out of 10 you took and sold. They just gave you for getting 10 listings. Yeah, I was the #1 listing agent in that office, brand new in the business, 2 months in a row. However, what nobody knew was I only sold 2 out of 10. That was painful. And I knew I got to stop doing this. I didn't know what to do, and Joe didn't know what to do other than go prospect. It's a numbers game. It's a crapshoot. All right? So we want to create some uniformity. That's what we're going to hopefully establish today. And again, what I'd hope for the leadership in the companies, that we build systems, as Karen said, all right? But what Jack Welch, I love this quote, we build up people first. We manufacture cars, automobiles second. You go, just think about going back to your office today, what's happening, what's the environment. Not telling you to jump ship or anything like that, but is that there for you? Is the culture there? That they're building you up first, and then we do the system second. That's the part I talked about in the Refine program this morning, is really working on our mindset. So thus we can then, I really think the Refine program will help you get more price reductions. It's going to change your mindset and how you're going to present these ideas to other people. It's how through the Refine program, it's also how you do Salesforce 5. The Refine program equips you for vision casting to other people. Okay? So converting leads has a lot to do with the lead selection, and I'm going to go to this slide here. Now, I've gone through courses with a company that does motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is, let me think for a second here. It's really a treatment program for alcoholics, and it's through psychologists and social workers. And when I've gone to these programs, I'm always the only realtor there. So why would I go to a course about alcoholics? It's because they're, if you will, they're in the stage of no way. They're in the stage of denial. Same with smokers or anything that we do. That some of us are in a stage of denial. I finally said, I'm a workaholic, and I did that in counseling. I had to admit it. Brian, you're being accused of being out. That's not exactly how it came out, but I really had to admit that what I was doing was really what a workaholic does. There was no downtime. Go on vacation, I was working. And if I had work in front of me, I was thinking. And so I would say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a workaholic. Hi, Brian.
Tell us your story.
And I wouldn't recommend that pace for anybody, but my priorities were screwed up. So here's what we have. People are really in 4 stages at any given time. You all, even your decision to move forward today or not with me, or to get a seller to reduce their price, or to get a client to sign up with you, they start out in the no way mode. No way, I'm never changing, I'm not going to change my mind, I'm not going to change my list price ever. I'm not going to switch, like you asked the question, Gary, about how do you land an account when they're already with somebody else? It comes down to presentation. I still want that opportunity. If somebody says we're locked in with this company, well, that's great. That's great. Just want to share some ideas and get your opinion on it. That's how I got Deutsche Financial Services, who had Associates Relocation as a third-party company. They were in the no way are we going to give all this business to a realtor when we have Associates Relocation. Through one presentation, was able to completely move their mindset by going over what I call the DNA indicators of the marketplace. Is it depreciating, is it neutral, or is it appreciating? The DNA presentation is very powerful. It's in every aspect of almost every single presentation we're going to recommend to you. The open house is about DNA. Expired listings, chasing them, talk about the DNA. The DNA is really everywhere. Is the market depreciating, neutral, or appreciating? Or should you send them marketing stuff as why you're the best agent to hire? The DNA is all about them. The marketing stuff is all about us. And so here's what we found, is that, oh, I'm going to use my pointer. I got a place on here. I can't find it. I got one of those laser lights. See that up there? Yuri helps me with everything, helped me put my belt on. So I can't figure this out. So the readiness to say yes. We know if you're working with clients that are in the coachable mode, there's 83% chance, and this is through data we've collected from realtors, if you're working with a certain type of client, maybe not a short sale, right? We have about 83% chance of selling those listings or those buyers if they fall into that category. All the way down to 7.5% of people that are uncoachable. Internet leads. Is there any relationship that starts there? I mean, there's really no relationship whatsoever. They hit your site and they hit how many other sites? They're pinging everybody. They're hitting all these sites. And we're all trying to get them signed up. We have no relationship with them, so which is why the close ratio, now I've got 7.5 on there. Anybody else in the room, what would you say? What's the close rate? A great rate. Okay. Anybody agree with that? Am I too high, too low on internet leads? Hello?
Too high.
Too high? No opinions? Let me ask you, who's getting internet leads in here right now?
Who's getting internet?
Yeah. And okay. And we're going to get 7-ish% rate of return. We picked up the low yield bag, and we're going to put our time into that. Now, of course, lightning strikes. We get a lead out of there, always hear that, but Brian, that's what I did. But can everybody do what you just did? No. Phone duty, I got one. I got 3 sales off phone duty this year. And it's like, well, can everybody, well, first of all, 3 is not a lot. And be able to say, can everybody do that? Can then he take his shift and his shift and his shift? Everybody keep producing that. All right? We want systems that we can continue, that everybody in here can step into those systems and have the same results. And not based on personalities. That's not personality driven. That, you know, these 2 gentlemen might be completely different in personality, but if they apply the system and use the scripts right, then you can have the same results. All right, as long as the commitment is high and we're hungry, right? So we've got 7.5% of people, and these are listings that many agents in this room have right now. The seller is uncoachable and resistant to changing the price ever, at least with you, right? At least with you. Because when you release them, or they release you, there's a fair chance they're going with somebody else. And what's going to happen? We saw how much business is being lost and resold or under control with somebody else at that point. So we want to not take uncoachable clients to begin with. And the uncommitted client, they're not ready to commit. They feel like they could be making the wrong decision. What I have up there, I don't know if you could read it from where you sit there, but it's a profile of people in the yes stage, the contingent upon more information. And what we want to do is just work with people at this level and eliminate our time with these people. You want to, income increase, we've got to stop working with the wrong people and start identifying those up front that are clearly uncoachable or they're uncommitted to the marketplace. And go up to the next level of people that are contingent upon more information. What we found is people at the 3rd level there at 71%, they just need a little bit more information. And then they're going to move forward with you, hopefully at your price, not theirs. So the decision, yes, is contingent upon gathering more information, and this is all, you know, incumbent upon you, the salesperson, to give the information that they need, to be listening really closely to that buyer or the seller. What information do this person need? Because this person might need some information, and this one needs something different. So lead conversion has a lot to do with lead selection. And we just don't want to invest so many hours into low yielding. And that's what we found through interviewing realtors and lenders across the nation, is they're doing a lot of lead selection that was low yielding to begin with. Is everybody with me? Class a little quieter this afternoon here. Because of lunch, yeah. So we kind of established this. What's the objective of getting a listing at the interview, besides winning? What's the objective? Priced right. Just priced right. That's it. We go back to, you know, how much time is spent on marketing. You know, who in here is a marketing genius? When I was, for a time I was #1 RE/MAX agent in the region, #1 Coldwell Banker agent. I would go to listing calls and I'd say, you know what? I'm not a marketing genius. And marketing is almost no part of our plan. We've got a marketing plan, but if we overprice your property, none of it will work. Doesn't matter what my ranking in the business is. If I overprice your property, because the conversation was price, 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 price. But moving them from no way, you got 1 hour to do this. Move the client from no way to yes, ready. Because we can all have that skill set, but we go on listing interviews, we're giving a marketing presentation to win the listing, and it's overpriced. And what happens week to week to week to week, after month after month after month, we just communicate. There's an agent I was talking to a couple weeks ago. She has a listing for 2 years. Never a price reduction.